करोति वाचालं कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यम् ईश्वरम् वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. So I'd like to thank Yamunajivan Prabhu to give me this opportunity to at least dive a little bit, if not very deep, but dive a little bit into the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I see you have a very nice crowd here, people of uh, from different backgrounds. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do justice to this. I'll not be able to do justice to this chapter. And the way I understand it here is you all have been reading through the entire Bhagavad Gita. You have a guest lecture at the end of every chapter. So today, I'm not going to, in one sense, cover a summary of it, but a highlight or like two to three highlights from the 18th chapter, which particularly appeals to me. And I believe it, it might probably appeal to you also. It might very well be that you might have very deep realizations on what I'm going to speak about, the set of verses that I'm going to speak about. And I'd like to hear more from each and every one of you as we progress here. Okay, so let's start. Since you have come close to the end of the Bhagavad Gita, you finished 18 chapters here. You have gone through different sets of yogas as such. And what are these different yogas? Broadly, we can classify them as yoga for the souls, and there's the yoga for the absolute truth. And in the yoga for the soul, if you look at the heading of each chapter, it gives a particular theme. The very first chapter says Arjuna Vishada Yoga. It's the yoga of Arjuna's despair. And all of you know yoga means to link with the absolute truth. And here we are seeing that right from the first chapter, it is in despair, some dejection that somebody is linking to the absolute truth. Often we think there are so many negative emotions. We need to set those negative emotions aside and then go to the realm of positive emotions to connect to the absolute truth. But the Vedic scriptures, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and more particularly the scriptures coming from the lineage of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu point out that there is immense happiness, or there's a different kind of happiness even in despair. And there is something that, which is why the Bhagavad Gita starts with despair. And there are various kinds of despair. In addition to this yoga of despair, you all might have gone through karma yoga, how one does activities in the world around us and relate to the absolute truth, how one cultivates a sense of belongingness to the absolute truth. Recently, I was speaking about Buddhism, and the fundamental premise in Buddhism is that there is dukkha in this world. And what is dukkha? Dukkha is dissatisfaction. And Buddhism's premise is because there is dissatisfaction in this world, the way we need to come out of it is we need to do something where there is no dukkha, there is no dissatisfaction. In the Vedic literature sense, the word dukkha also means unhappiness. But the starting point in a typical, from the Upanishadic sense or from the enlightened Vedic literature sense, is not about dissatisfaction with the world. It is trying to identify where we belong to the bigger picture of the world, the bigger picture of God and his creation in this world. So that is the jnana that is being spoken about. We in relationship to the absolute truth. Then there is the yoga of renunciation. There is this world around us, and somehow it seems that maybe our nature is different from that of the world around us. We seem to be eternal. The world around us seems to be fleeting. And a lot of uh, our lack of fulfillment comes from an eternal soul trying to do something with a finite world. And so some people approach the absolute truth by saying, let me try to renounce the false conceptions and cultivate positive conceptions. And there is a particular process for it also, the yoga of meditation. So these are the different yoga for the souls, which finally culminate in the yoga for loving service, bhakti yoga. A different category is the yoga for divinity, where Krishna spoke about his powers. He says how he manifests himself in the world around us. That is the Vibhuti Yoga in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. He also said that how he is the source of everything and how everything can be seen in relation to him in the Vishwarupa Yoga in chapter 11. And the particular details of the super soul, the individual soul, the relationship comes in chapter 15. So these are the different varieties of yoga that you all have gone through from first chapter to the 18th chapter. And for those of you who have been carefully reading Srila Prabhupada's purports, as well as probably hearing his lectures, sometimes Srila Prabhupada says that there is confidential, more confidential, and most confidential information or knowledge given in the scripture. What is that confidential, more confidential, and most confidential? The confidential part is this jnana, the relation between the individual soul, the world, and the absolute truth, which leads to liberation. It's given in second to sixth chapters. You've all been going through it for the past year and a half. And there is something which is more confidential. It is the knowledge of the bhakti, which was given in the Bhagavad Gita, by which we perceive the Supreme Lord. This was started at the seventh and the eighth chapter, and then it continued further elsewhere. And then there is something which is most confidential. It's given in this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshavadamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartumavyayam. And Krishna says that what I'm going to speak to you is Guhyam, is a secret, Uttamam, the highest of the secret. It's the most confidential secret. And by this, Pratyaksha, you can perceive self-realization by this, and this is the perfection of religion. And this is something which is not something for which you have to do a jihad, you have to burn a tower, or you have to bomb yourself. No, it's done joyfully. So this is what Krishna talks about, this Rajavidya, the most confidential knowledge. So what is that highest secret? In the 15th chapter, Krishna says, because I'm transcendental, he's beyond both the fallible and the infallible. And because he says, because I am the greatest, I am celebrated in this world and in the Vedas as that supreme person. So one aspect of this most confidential knowledge is that Krishna is the supreme Lord. Okay. And he also says that whoever knows me as the supreme Lord, as the supreme personality of Godhead, he is understood to be the knower of everything. And having known and everything, he then engages in my bhakti in full devotional service. Okay. So this is the iti guhyatamam shastram idam uktam maya anaga. I'm telling you this guhyatamam, the most confidential knowledge, because you are anagha. You are sinless. That's one requirement here. Now, he also, so the question that comes here is, we are having this knowledge that Krishna, the Supreme Lord, and note that Krishna is advertising himself as the Supreme Lord. It is not that he has started right now itself in this 15th chapter. It started way back in the second chapter. If you go to the 61st verse of the second chapter, He begins it there. Then in the third chapter, 30th verse, then you go to the fourth chapter. It's almost all everywhere Krishna is saying, I am the Supreme Lord. I am the destination. So he's been talking about it from the second chapter onwards, saying that he's the Supreme Lord. So the question is, how come you are saying that it is the secret at all? And to consider it, the Bhagavad Gita is in the Mahabharata. When the Bhagavad Gita starts, Krishna is always addressed as Sri Bhagavan Vacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said this. Why does Vyasa, the author of the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, address Krishna as Bhagavan? Because prior to it, in the Mahabharata itself, Krishna had shown that he's the Supreme Lord even to Duryodhana. Prior to showing that his universal form to Krishna, to Arjuna, he had already displayed it to Duryodhana. It's a different matter that Duryodhana rejected it and said that this is just something which is an act of magic. You're just trying to fool me. So this question persists, can persist in some people's minds, at least in my mind. Why is this a secret? And the answer is there in this 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which you all studied very carefully. And that's where I want to come to the heart of the Bhagavad Gita, the secret. So we have this most confidential knowledge, which is going to be expounded in this 18th chapter. And in this 18th chapter, too, there are another set of layers of secrets. Like we had confidential, more confidential, most confidential knowledge throughout the Bhagavad Gita, but there is something which is a different kind of categorization of secrets in the 18th chapter itself. Secret number one, from verse number 1 to 49, Krishna is basically telling Arjuna that you act according to one's nature. How? We'll go through that. We'll just delve on it a little bit. Next, he talks about a greater secret. Well, you act according to your nature, but there is something called transcendence. And he talks about the Paramatma, the super soul in the heart, all living entities, in verses 50 to 63. And then he finally comes to the greatest secret in verse number 64 to 66. So let's unravel it one by one. And you may say, why don't we just jump to this, the greatest secret? You all have already studied it. But I'd like to point out some things in this, the secret and the greater secret too. And that's why I want to spend a little time with it. The first thing, secret, acting according to one's nature. This chapter sort of begins with Arjuna's question about what is sannyasa and what is tyaga. And Krishna very well says that actually sannyasa in one sense is giving up actions for personal benefit. Tyaga or uh, tyaga is you can define it as giving up the results of action. So Krishna says you do sannyasa by tyaga, or you renounce selfish actions by relinquishing the fruits of actions. And he says this will actually help you to be detached from this world, because otherwise you're going to be caught in the modes of the material nature. Why? Because Krishna says that you or I, we alone are not the causes of action. We like to think that we act, and because of us, so many things get done in this world. But Krishna gives us a reality check and says that there are five causes of action, which you all have studied. The individual soul, there is a sense object, there's the sense organs, there's the Paramatma, the Supreme Lord. All of them put together are the different causes of action. That's fine. But then there's one more aspect here. He says these actions are affected by the modes of material nature. And I have written it in this slide as the qualities of primordial nature. And there's a reason why I have written it this way. The modes of material nature are very strong. And when you see them as the qualities of primordial nature, it's been existing from eternity. Most of us have been on this planet Earth for possibly 20, 30, 40, 60 years, 70 years max here in this call, somewhere around that. But this primordial nature has existed for a long, long time. Last year, around this time, I was in Vrindavan. And on the last day that I was in Vrindavan, I I finished everything. I attended a nice Kirtan concert by His Holiness B.B. Govind Maharaj and other devotees. And I was going back to the house where I was staying. I was driving what we call in India as a scooter. It's a two-wheeler. The road was primarily empty, and I just tried to slow down by applying the brake. I skid and fell. And it was not new. It was not something new for me to skid. I knew how to drive a scooter. I put my foot down and felt that maybe I can bear my weight with that, but it was not sufficient. Then I thought maybe let me allow the vehicle to fall and let me stand. Even that was not sufficient. I fell down and I thought, let me put my hand down so that I can at least balance it. Even that was not sufficient. My face fell flat on the ground with a big thud. That is when I realized the nature, the God's nature, this material creation, this Prakriti is so strong that we living entities just seem to have no power. We seem to think we have power, or at least I seem to think that I had power, but I had no power whatsoever. And we are all affected by it. So, why am I talking about it? In the practice of one's spiritual life, sooner or later, one begins to think after reading various scriptures, after associating with like minded spiritual folks, that there are some things in me which are nice, which I have to cultivate it further. There are some things which are new, I need to learn, and there are some things which I need to relinquish. And what Krishna is saying here through these set of verses all the way up to the 45th verse in the 18th chapter is learn to live with your nature and yet transcend. For those, like some of you might know astrology, you might have heard about it. I have some little understanding of astrology. And in astrology, we typically see two things: what happens at the time of birth and what happens now. When a person is born, the planets move in a particular way, and you take a snapshot when a person is born. That dictates one's nature. But in addition to it, the planets don't stop moving. They continue to move and they cast their influence on the living entity. And as a living entity progresses, the position of the planets influences the living entity even now. Quite often, we get caught in thinking, why is he thinking in this way, or why is he or she thinking in that way? Why are they doing this to me, etc.? We should just note that most people are just going through the pull and push of the swabhava, the characteristic they have imbibed through several births. And it is not easy. And what Krishna is going through all of these verses is that while a person is acting with his swabhava, a spiritual person, a sadhaka, is also exercising his free will to connect to the absolute truth. We, who are the seers, should see in others and in our own selves both of these aspects. The aspect that a person is bound by his conditioning, and the aspect that the person is trying to exercise his free will. Maybe the aspect of exercising one's free will and wanting to connect to the absolute truth may not be evident superficially, but a sadhaka is still trying to do it. And that's the vision that we need to have, that simultaneously both are happening, and we need to give appropriate value to both of them. So, the personal application for most of us is learn to resonate with one's nature and yet see how one can connect to the absolute truth. This is the first part of acting according to one's nature. And to summarize this particular such section, Krishna says, Yatha pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmanam tam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manavaha. Men achieve success by worshipping the Lord who is the origin of all entities and is spread everywhere through mentally offering their prescribed duties. This is a particular translation. But the key thing here is while we work with our conditioning, we need to think in our mind, by this work, may the Supreme Lord be satisfied. This does not mean that we do any work in this world but to satisfy the Supreme Lord. And that is why we learn that there are activities in the mode of goodness, in the mode of passion, in the mode of ignorance. Try to do as much as possible to come to the stage of the mode of goodness. We need to come to that stage. Try. Um, and it's a journey, sometimes the journey of many lifetimes. And it's okay. Why is it okay for it to be a journey of many lifetimes? We'll listen to that when we come to the final secret. We have still not come to the most confidential secret. Then, having spoken about how to act according to one's nature, Krishna then takes us to the inner world of transcendence. He says, there is a method or a discipline required to attain the absolute truth. And that there is one stage of realization, which is the Brahman realization, which can lead to bhakti. It is not necessary for a person to come to the stage of Brahman realization and then move further. But yet, Krishna is saying that I look at this entire world and people have different proclivities. And so I'm speaking about how a vast majority of the people with different proclivities can come to me. It's not just a person with a particular mindset. He wants to give his message to everybody, to as many people as possible. So he does speak about this Brahman realization that how it finally leads to bhakti. And then in verses 60 to 62, he speaks about how love is offered to the Supreme Lord. I'm not going into the details for that. But then comes the most long awaited secret. What is that secret? It is the inner heart of Krishna. And this is what I'd like to delve on this and the next two verses that I'd like to delve on. सर्वगुह्यतमं भूय शृणु मे परमं वचः इष्टो असि मे दृढम् इति ततो वक्ष्यामि ते हितम्. He says, Sarva Guhya Tamam. Guhya, secret, Tamam, like Uttama. He says, this is the greatest secret of all. Then he says, Shrunume, hear me, this Paramam Vachaha, the supreme message. What is that supreme message? Ishto Asi Me. You are so much loved by me. This is Krishna's secret, the most confidential secret that he wants to give, that I love you, each of us. He loves Arjuna and he loves all of us. And he says, because I love you, I'm speaking to you. Now let's go back to what I was saying. Krishna, right from the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he has been telling, I'm the Supreme Lord, I'm the origin of everything. You all have to come to me ultimately. So many ways. But here, couched in this one verse, in just like three words, Ishto Asime, he's giving the secret that I love you. He's so shy that he doesn't reveal it throughout. And this is one of the nature of Krishna, that he's a very shy person. He, the core of his heart is revealed only to somebody whom he trusts, somebody whom he has already seen that this person likes me. He doesn't give it to any Tom, Dick, and Harry. And following Krishna, those who are his devotees also reveal their hearts in confidence only when that relationship is built. Okay. So let's look at a little bit more about this, how this relationship is built. Let me give an example also. Krishna expresses, or Krishna often expresses his love by saying that how he's there, how he's ready for his devotee, no matter where he or she is, by saying, I will orchestrate something behind the scenes for you, because he's too shy to come out in the front. And when a devotee comes to the extreme stage of prema bhakti, it is then that he reveals himself fully in the heart of the devotee and also in front of his eyes too. One example, one devotee was telling me that he was trying to serve his spiritual master, and his spiritual master was busy with something, and so he would just try to serve him from morning to evening, day in and day out for many, many, many days. And he was serving a spiritual master, a guru in ISKCON, in a temple. And one day, after serving morning, day in and day out, he became, I mean, like he did for 3 days, and then he became very tired. And then he pushed himself somehow for the seventh day, the eighth day, and it came to the 10th day. He said, I know this is the right thing to do. It's not that my heart, it's not like my body is allowing me, but let me just try it because I know this is the right thing to do. And as he was taking a plate of prasadam to be offered to his guru, he was in a temple, and he saw that they were offering the devotees in the temple had offered something to the deity, and there was a juice, a glass of juice that was being offered, and it was hot summer. So that devotee said, I just wish I had that to drink. But then he thought, now I have to go and serve this to my spiritual master. So he went, served his spiritual master, and then he was about to go back to his room because I mean, he just forgot the entire incident of his thought process. But as he was going to his room, another devotee came to him and said, hey, this is what we were offering to the deity. Why don't you please take it? Why? So Krishna understood the heart and he said, I like you serving your spiritual master because your spiritual master is serving me, which means finally you are serving me. And therefore, in the verse by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur called Guru Ashtakam, he says, Sakshad Haritvena Samasta Shastre Uttasatha Bhavideva Sabbihi. The spiritual master, one should consider him as Sakshad Hari. Why? Because the true spiritual master has the happiness of Krishna in his heart. And therefore, our relationship to Krishna is through such nice devotees. They can be our spiritual master or they can be devotees in the community that we live. It is to such devotees who have Krishna in their heart by which we love him. Is it required for us to approach Krishna through these devotees? Let's explore further. After speaking about this verse, the next one verse, Krishna says, मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो मध्याजी मां नमस्कुरु मामेवेष्यसि सत्यं te pratijane priyosi me. He says, I love you. And since I love you, I want you. Krishna is Krishna has revealed the secret that he who is the complete or the paripurna, the superlatively complete supreme Lord, is still lacking something. He lacks the expression of love being reciprocated with him. And he needs that. He yearns for that. And he is okay with the living entities in this world wanting uh, to be with him in various ways, to serve him in various ways. He says, because it is this service which actually means that we have a relationship. Manmana bhava, think about me. Madbhakto, become my devotee. Madhyaji, worship me. Mam namaskuru, offer obeisance to me. And this is how you become dear to me. Most quite often we miss this very simple thing, Mam namaskuru. When we go out to the world around us and run all our errands, maybe we go to the workplace or we just go to the grocery store, etc. When we come back to our home, when we offer our obeisance to the picture of Krishna or a deity of Krishna, saying, I went out for this work. It was for your work. I've come back to your house. Please accept my obeisance to you. May I do something for your benefit. And I hope what I did was for your benefit. Please give me the strength to do something for you. That act of namaskara, paying obeisance, actually endears one to Krishna and endears Krishna to us. These simple things. Fine. So Krishna said, I like you. I want you also to be in relationship with me. I need you. That's a secret, he said. And then he says, how can we come to him? He says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. Most of you in this call would have heard this verse umpteen number of times. And Krishna is saying, there are various dharmas, acts that help one to come to the Supreme Lord. He says, you give up every other act other than the one in which you come to me. And you surrender to me. That's what he's asking. And this is a very critical piece. Why? We learned of the different kinds of yogas. Why did we go through these different kinds of yogas? Because Krishna says there are are of different kinds. Arto, Artharti, Jignasu, Jnani. Some people are in distress. Some of them need something to be fulfilled. Some of them are inquisitive. And some of them, they know about the absolute truth and they want to be in relationship with the absolute truth. People are of various kinds and they choose various paths. Amongst all of them, those who come on the spiritual path, like, and they follow various yogas. It could be the yoga of the karma yoga, the jnana yoga, the yoga of meditation, etc., etc. Amongst in all of them, you see something which is very, very common in them. The common thing in most of them is a high degree of wanting self actualization. One wants to achieve something. I have understood this, that this is my nature, this is the world around me, and I want to achieve self realization in a particular way. And most spiritualists are okay to say that as time progresses, my spiritual realization has evolved or it has even morphed to a different thing altogether. And I'm going in a different direction. But the underlying aspect is I want to accomplish something. What Krishna is saying here is to come to Him, to actually come to the highest goal, one has to even let go of that I want to accomplish something because it all comes under different dharmas. What he needs is just like the way Krishna says, I love you and I will orchestrate everything around you in an invisible manner because that's my expression of love to you. In the same way, we learn the example of love from Krishna that I want you to be happy. And for you to be happy, I'm ready to do anything. I'm ready to forget my own self, but it is you whom I want to be happy. I'm not talking about forgetting oneself from the standpoint of a Buddhist or a nihilist, etc. But forgetting my own desires, and it is Krishna's desire that needs to be pleased. But then there comes a question here that how do I um, surrender to the Supreme Lord? I mean, I can have a mental construct saying whatever I'm doing is for God. And most of us live in our mind as such. And many of us may not even be at the stage that we want to do something for God fully. For most of us, it is a theoretical construct as such. We have not bought into it. We have an intellectual appeal to it, but it has not gone to an emotional or an affective appeal as such. And so, what stops us actually from it? In the next verse, uh, Krishna says that this confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere, they are not devoted or engaged in devotional service, not to one who is envious of me. And Srila Prabhupada writes, persons who have not undergone the austerities of religious process, who have never attempted devotional service in Krishna consciousness, who have not tended a pure devotee, and especially those who are of who are conscious of Krishna only as a historical personality, or who are envious of the greatness of Krishna, should not be told this most confidential part of knowledge. In other words, an important aspect that Krishna wants from us is that we tend to a pure devotee. It is in relationship to a devotee, that a pure devotee whose heart is full of wanting to serve Krishna, that we can learn this relationship with Krishna. Why? We need visible examples. I'll give you I'll give you an example here. There's a very nice devotee whom I know who was assisting another very nice devotee. So I'll call it as devotee one was assisting devotee two. And the devotee two is a very exemplary, exalted devotee who uh, who whose entire focus is how can I serve Krishna and my spiritual master. So this devotee one who's serving this very exalted devotee two, he tried to assist him in connecting the laptop to a projector, and somehow it was not working with the Zoom call and things like that. And this very exalted devotee too just shouted at him and said, "Why is it that whenever you are there with me, nothing works?" And this happened in front of many others in the audience. And so the devotee one didn't bother. I mean, like externally, his expression was grave. He just did his job, got it working. And as soon as it got it working, the very exalted devotee too looked at him and just smiled at him and just nodded his head that way. And the devotee one understood it. This was a test for him. Are you okay to be in this relationship no matter what happens, even in front of others? Or do you want me that even if I'm going to not value you or I'm even going to demean you? And this devotee one passed the test. And it was also a test that for every person, there are two aspects: the aspect of their relationship with the absolute, and there's an aspect of the personality. As we progress in our spiritual life, we have to learn to discern it. People will have their personalities in this world, but quite often a novice, a neophyte, as we call in general, a novice ascribes the personality to be the inner character of others. One has to learn to separate it out. The personality is one aspect. Definitely, the inner core of exalted devotees manifests itself in the personality. But then that is not the all and end all. Sometimes it manifests a little differently. It's just I see the manifestation of personality in some very nice people around me, and I try to emulate it, not knowing that maybe I am not supposed to be 100% of that personality. I have my own personality too. What we need to look at it is the core aspect, how much each of us wants to live in that relationship with Krishna. So we should not get caught in external traits alone. We need to look at the heart of Krishna. We need to look at the heart of devotees. And it is when we have this heart, when our heart is with the devotees, then we can know, we can experience a higher truth. And to experience that higher truth, and there's an important aspect, sarva dharman parityajya, the element of sacrifice. And what Krishna is saying here, this element of sacrifice, it's quite confusing for many of them. For those who are very familiar with the Vedic paradigm, there are something called as nitya karma. Every day you do something. There is naimittika karma. Do it once in a while. What are some examples of nitya karma? Nitya karma is, I will come back to this. Nitya karma is like you wake up in the morning, there are a set of verses to recite, there are a set of, maybe some cases from the Vedic from paradigm, there is the fire sacrifice to be performed. Is Krishna telling us you can leave all of that? Different acharyas say it differently. Baladev Vidyabhushan, an acharya in the Gaudiya Vaishnava lineage from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, says that there are three different kinds of devotees. There is the Sanishta, there's the Parinishta, and the Nirapeksha. The Sanishta devotee, he performs spiritual activities knowing that I have some conviction, but I need a greater deal of conviction. So my actions don't necessarily match my convictions too, because I'm not fully convinced. I still have the allure of this world, and my own prior conditioning still makes me do certain things. But I recognize that the spiritual scriptures and spiritual personality speak something which is valuable. I want to accept it. That is the stage of the Sanishta devotee. So for such Sanishta devotees, they perform activities for the purification of their heart, the purification of their intentions, the purification of their motivations. A slightly higher stage is Parinishta. His intentions have become one with the absolute truth, but he also realizes that I have to act in such a way that the world around me doesn't get confused. So he acts in a way to teach others in the world how one has to perform activities in this world. That is the Parinishta. And the Nirapeksha is a person who doesn't need to perform any dharmic duties. What Srila Prabhupada has given to us is typically at the standard of the Nirapeksha devotee. Most of us recognize we are not there. Why is it so? It is Srila Prabhupada has given us the standards of Nirapeksha devotee. But he has given us, like, okay, in the morning you wake up, you don't need to follow the Vedic route. You sing a song praising the Guru, you sing a song expressing that I need to be with Tulsi Devi, who can give me entrance into spiritual life. I need protection for my spiritual life from Narasimha. And then comes what should be the motivation when I chant. There are the Shikshashtakam verses, etc. Srila Prabhupada gave us a regimen which is more in line of the Nirapeksha devotee, which means he's asking us to sacrifice everything else. So there's a fundamental truth that one man's qualification is another man's disqualification. Those who have not been, who have not come in touch and who have not been motivated and who don't want to surrender to very exalted devotees, you still have something, which is the Vedic process. But if you have come in touch with nice devotees, then it is imperative that you follow in their footsteps. You, I, and all of us, we follow in their footsteps. And it is this sharanam, that my shelter depends on each of you. Like it depends on other devotees. It also depends on some of you who are exalted devotees. And through that, Krishna will be revealed in my heart. That's all I had to say, Prabhu. Any comments, questions, thoughts? Or did I just bore you? You can be honest because that will help me.
Prabhu, thank you for a really nice presentation. I think the summary of going through the whole Bhagavad Gita and how you put everything together was really, really nice. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd echo that. It was a really good summary and going deeply into the layers and the secrets of what Krishna is trying to say was special. I think
Mm.
what you were trying to emphasize at the end is, certainly throughout, but what your punchline message was, the secret of all the secrets is to become a wholehearted, dedicated servant to an exalted devotee. That's
Yeah.
like the heart of the message of the Bhagavad Gita that may not be necessarily super clear, but you're trying to bring that out as this is like the heart of it. There's a key message there.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
And the scriptural evidence to bring that out is what I was really appreciating. Thank you. Kapil, you have your hand up. You want to share? Something? Want to ask a question, maybe?
Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for this wonderful presentation. Please accept my humble obeisances. Glory to Srila Prabhupada. Um, Prabhu, I was wondering if you could put some more light on 18.14, where Krishna is describing about five. Um,
Which
and
18, 14, 1 minute. Let me. You're able to see the verse here, is it? Right?
yes,
Wait a minute. 18.14. Let me go there. Okay. Adhishtanam tata karta karanam cha pratak vidam. Yes, there are different five factors of action. Yes, Dhruv. Yeah.
could you please put some more light on this, the actual explanation? Um, Yamuna Jivan Prabhu has already, beautifully explained this verse to us, but
Mm.
maybe I didn't grasp it properly. Maybe I need some more explanation, or maybe I didn't understand it clearly. I don't know.
Can you tell me what is a stumbling block for you here, or what is it that you think is something that is you have understood part A, but there's some part B which you don't know. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yes. So I had asked this question to Prabhu, that we have constantly read over and over in Bhagavad Gita that we are not the doers. But then
Mm.
who's the doer? Like five things collectively, the things which are mentioned here are the doers. That's what Prabhu mentioned. But it's not
Mm.
into my heart. I'm not able to understand the crux or the essence of what is being said here.
I'll tell it in a very different way. You might not have ever heard it like this, but let's see. There's a very nice Christian pastor in the US. He's almost 75 years old. His name is Francis Clooney. Have you heard about him?
Mm.
Some of you might have heard about him. He's a Jesuit priest, and much before most of us were born, there was an incident in his life. I think it was way back in the 60s or something like that. Um, he felt, I mean, he was born in a Christian family in the US. He felt the touch of God. And when he felt the touch of God, the rest of his life, he felt, I'm going to do something to learn this. I mean, like, I want to get into it. So his was a case of a person who naturally, voluntarily became a celibate monk, a celibate priest is in the order of the Jesuits there. He's now a professor in Harvard. And sometime in 1976 or 7, he went to India. And when he went to India, he got in touch with the teachings of various Vaishnava acharyas. And when some was about Ramanujacharya, and some he also came into Srila Prabhupada's teachings. And then he began to see parallels there. That the essence of what is there in the Vedic scriptures, there are some parallels even in the Bible. And he began to understand the Bible a little differently from everybody else because he visited India almost like 18 or 19 times. And every time he would go to a particular teacher and learn something about some particular scripture, but he couldn't let go of his attachment to Jesus Christ. He heard about Lord Vishnu. He understands Vishnu. He understands about Krishna. But for him, he's still attached. He's saying that the characteristics and the qualities of the Vedic scripture I accept, but the person who manifests that for me is Jesus Christ. He accepts it both. Now, the rest of the folks in Christianity would call that either Vishnu or Christian is a pagan god, things like that. That's a different thing altogether. And how does this relate to what you're saying? Why does a person perform a particular activity? You have the adhishtanam, the place where a person is born, the background where a person is born, where he's staying, has a particular impact on the person. For example, you take, I'm in India. India is a very community oriented place. The culture is community oriented. We don't do activities for our own selves. We do a lot for others. We fit into as a small part of a bigger puzzle. If you look at Europe, way back somewhere in the 17th century or so, there was the Protestant movement. And the Protestant movement is I am going to understand something about the world around me and about Bible by myself. I don't need somebody sitting in Rome telling me what I need to do. So these the whole purpose was about individual expression. And those Protestants migrated to the United States of America. And so you see a very high sense of individualism there. So being in America influences a person in individualism. Being in India influences a person in being doing something for the community as a whole. It doesn't mean that somebody in US they don't have it. That's what churches in the US try to do. They try to bring a sense of community too. But the strong Protestant movement also brings in people with that background. And through the genes, over 200 years, 300 years, it has solidified that I live for myself, my things have to be satisfied, etc. So the adhishtanam, the place impacts. And like the case of Francis Clooney, the culture that he was born in, it influenced him. Then the karta, the worker, our own selves, we come with our baggage or a particular nature, the conditioned nature from all the previous lifetimes, number one. But number two, submerged within this conditioning is the true soul. We all have our unique nature as a true soul. And therefore, once in a while, that manifests somewhere there. And we have to learn to hear that voice. For example, for most of us, when we were somewhere in the age group of 12 to 18, there was something that as a child, we think, how nice it would be if I did that. And as we grow older, there are the pressures of the world around us, the money. Okay, I need to earn money. I need this to be done. I need to satisfy this pleasure for my body. And therefore, I need this arrangement. All those other things come up. But the karta, the worker, also comes into picture. So there is the desire of the person and the conditioning of the person coming in the karta. The adhishtanam is the place, the karta is one here. Then comes the karanam, instruments. To the extent my conditioning uh, is to the extent my conditioning relates to the sense objects. I see something, I see a burger, I need to eat it. I see a pizza, I need to eat it. So to that extent, I am very much connected. And to the extent I am detached from it, the instruments don't matter. So the karta gets influenced by the instruments. And for a person to do an activity, he or she needs instruments. And depending on how one uses one's instruments, it results in a reaction. Use one's instrument, like I can use my hands and legs to do something for the benefit of somebody, and I'll get a particular kind of reaction. So that's one kind of endeavor, one kind of factor that is important in the sources of action. Then we have the different kinds of endeavor. Some are of good kind, some condition ourselves and the world around us. So all of these are the different factors, and behind all of that is the super soul. Like how in the case of Francis Clooney, the super soul manifested, gave him a glimpse of something and motivated him to do something in his life. And in each of our own lives, the super soul can come and teach or can speak to us, influence us either internally in the heart or sometimes externally through the people whom we meet. I'll give one other example here. There's a very great Acharya, Rupa Goswami. He's a, um, he's a follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Rupa Goswami was a minister in for Nawab Hussain Shah, he met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he had a strong desire. Why should I spend the rest of my lifetime with this Nawab Hussain Shah? I know that it's required for me to take care of some people, but my heart is elsewhere. I want to be with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And one day, It was raining. It was evening. It was raining heavily. And he got a call from Nawab Hussain Shah saying, I want you for the meeting. So the palace of the king was at Ramkeli, and the place where Rupa Goswami was present was a little away, and it was raining very heavily. The Nawab had sent a palanquin, like four people can carry it at four ends, a palanquin for him. So Rupa Goswami boarded the palanquin, and he was in the palanquin. As the carriers were carrying him, if I think it was a washerman or somebody like that, somebody who's not a very learned man as such. He had no big understanding of scriptures. That washerman remarked, "Look how attached is this person. Just for the sake of satisfying a king, this person is going in the dead of the night in a palanquin when it is raining so heavily. It is so dangerous at this point in time to travel. And yet, for the sake of that recognition and money, this person is traveling in the dead of the night." And when Rupa Goswami heard it, he said, "This person is making sense. Why am I here?" It's a different kind of reality that Rupa Goswami was not attached. But he felt, I probably am in my comfort zone too much here. I need to get out. That day he decided, I need to hear to him. For him, the Super Soul or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke through that washerman at that point in time that this is the time for you to leave. He was also in a quandary. When should I leave? But he felt this is the time to leave. Super Soul can act through various people. We think that he has to be extremely qualified. But as you say here, this motivated Rupa Goswami to do the rest of the activities for his life. And that's how you see five factors of action. Does it help, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you. It made a lot of sense now. How like past impressions come into picture, and then yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. It's almost time, Yamanaji and Prabhu, for your group, I guess, isn't it? And 3 minutes past the deadline, or
Yeah, we can spend a few more minutes if anyone has a question or comment, reflection that you'd like to add. Or anything you're taking away from the discussion today. Anyone would like to share what you're taking away?
If
I guess I just, oh, sorry, Kapil.
Linear, so
Uh, One, I just wanted to say thank you very much for your time. The presentation was very beneficial, and it's a lot to think about. And the way you broke it down um, into digestible parts, first of all, to cover that much material in such a short amount of time is impressive in and of itself. But uh, yeah, so thank you. Um, I've said it many times throughout our reading together, but surrender is always the thing that I come back to. So I really appreciated your points tonight, and I'm gonna further contemplate on that and really what it looks like, um, given the different contexts in which you presented it, in addition to some of the other ways in which it's been presented by Yamuna Prabhu and going back and rereading chapter 18 verses 64, 65.
Thanks, Linnea. Yeah, good. That's something you've been thinking about for some time, huh?
It
Surrender.
really is. I just keep coming back to it. What does that really mean and what does it
Look
look
like.
like? And I really liked that he highlighted that it is this theoretical construct and how we can, but knowing what does it actually look like. And I liked your, I know it wasn't necessarily within that linear presentation part of it, but the devotee within the temple and Krishna really knowing his heart and then bringing the juice back to him, even though he had kind of forgotten about it. Uh, yeah.
Awesome.
Hare Krishna
All right.
Prabhu.
Yeah, Sujanya, go ahead.
I think I got stuck at one place and um I think I have to read, maybe I forgot. It's like act according to one's nature. And what was the next thing, Prabhu? You said something and connect to the um, supreme super soul.
So identify the first and foremost we have our nature. Then we
Yes.
identify within that nature what is in resonance with the scriptures and take that intersection, acting according to nature and resonating with the scriptures, and then do the activity and at least at the end of the activity say, my dear Lord, I try to do it for you. I hope you're happy. I hope you're satisfied. That is the end part of it. Bhakti is not about just offering the results. Bhakti is the process itself. So the advantage of acting in one's own nature is one is not fighting with one's mind on how to please Krishna, because now it becomes our own inner nature is our second nature. Like say, for example, somebody is good in painting, so they don't need to struggle to paint. But then while painting, they are only thinking, will Krishna be happy with this? Is this in line with the scriptures? Is this how the devotees want? That is all the contemplation while doing that activity. Or say, for example, one may be in the workplace. As one is in the workplace, like some of them have a flair to be managers. So when they interact with people, the first thing they see here is, what does this nature look like? Let me try to help this individual relate to his nature and at the same time be of assistance to others. So we are making people not be like hyper about, am I going to lose my job or something, but rather assuaging them saying, you belong here. For a lot of people in the workplace, the insecurity drives them. So, but a devotee manager doesn't play on insecurities. He says, I want you to feel secure. Because once you feel secure here, I will then speak to you about how you can be secure in your relationship with the Supreme Lord. Or he might motivate a conversation to say, where you fit into this bigger picture. So he establishes a relationship of trust. Why? Because he knows, I know this living entity is um, a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. I need him to also connect to the Supreme Lord. But while the devotee manager is doing so, he's not really clear, am I doing the right thing? There will always be a doubt in his mind. So after doing it, he comes back to his deities and says, I'm not sure if I did a good job, but I'd like to offer it to you. Please help me next time again. So we learn again, and we make mistakes and we learn. But in working with our own nature, it's much more easier to progress
Easy.
than trying to do something else. That's
It's like don't swim against the tide.
it's the time.
Yeah.
Right? But yet, but this is at the beginning at a particular stage. But by the time we come to the 18.65 and 66, it says the Sarva Dharman Paritijamam Ekam Sharanam. Surrender is swimming against the tide. We do a lot of things where we flow with the tide just so that we get enough strength to swim against the tide. I
Endurance.
am ready to be in a position of discomfort. We should not squeak when we are in a position of discomfort. Because what's important in discomfort is not the discomfort, but how is God shining through this situation? That is what we need to look at. So while using, while being in a position of comfort, we then see, oh God, please help me. We learn that aspect to see how God is working through others and through the circumstances, through the scriptures, through others' words. We learned it. so that when we come to the position of discomfort, we can still recognize this is where God is coming from. And that's why the Upanishads tell that the path of spirituality is like walking on a razor's edge in the middle of a night with just some brief glimpses coming through a lightning streak. It's a long period of darkness, and just a little light somewhere. And in that period of darkness, we have to walk on the edge of a razor, not to the left side, not to the right side. What gives us the clarity and the strength for it? That's what we have done, the work that we have done prior. And sometimes we trip and fall off of the razor's edge, but we need to come back to it. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when I read for the first time, I didn't even pay attention, I guess. But when you were summarizing, I got stuck there and act according to one's nature, but our nature is not perfect. So how I was thinking, I got stuck over there itself.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't. I mean, actually, I should have elaborated then, but you asked me to elaborate now, and that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Very close to 15 past the hour. Devotionally brilliant. Thank you, Shamkun Prabhu. Let's do a little reaction, whatever reaction you want to use on your Zoom, but I'm going to do one here. But thank you for being part of our group today.
And what do you do after the Bhagavad Gita? What's next for your group, Prabhu?
Yeah, that's a good question. We put out a poll, and where we're landing is they wanted a 5-part journey of self-discovery. It was journey of is that the journey of self-discovery series? Things I present at colleges. We're going to do it with the group here, and then right after that we move into Ishopanishad. Discuss Ishopanishad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, Shamkun Prabhu. Really appreciate your joining us and taking your time out. Had time to go to work, I guess, for you. And time to sleep for the rest of us. So we'll see you next time. Hare Krishna. Take care.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.